Hello, welcome to IELTS house. At this part, I want to describe about academic writing model, which is divided to different tasks. It says, write a short report summarizing information presented in one or more charts, graphs, or tables. Or write a short report describing a diagram that illustrates changes over time or steps in a process. And the Task-2 writing model we just mentioned, write an essay supporting an opinion with reasons and example. In Task-1, we just talk about chart, graphs or table. We just wrote a short report which is summarizing information presented in one chart or more charts, graphs or tables. And at the Task-2 writing model, we just write an essay. That essay will support an opinion and ideas with reason and example. In Task-1, we have got two kinds of writing task. One is academic writing and the second is general writing. Skill 1, determining the task. It says, in writing Task-1 on the academic test, you will write a report summarizing and comparing the main feature of a graphic. The graphic may be a bar graph, line graph, pie graph, table or diagram. You must recognize the type of graphic and the type of information it shows. And skill 2, determining the topic. It just select the topic, the kinds of topic. At this section, it determines the topic of the graphic by reading the graphic title and descriptions. You will use this information to write the topic sentence of your report. Choose the best. How much money? 3 types of restaurant ends at lunch and dinner time. B section, how long it takes to serve lunch and dinner at 3 types of restaurant. And part C, how much time and money customers spends at 3 types of restaurants. And skill 3, making comparisons. In Task-1, you are asked to make comparisons. Look for things you can compare in the graphic. You must see information about places, type of people, type of activities, products, and or change over time. Look for similarities and difference among these things. For example, we have got a bar graph. By the name of average cost of housing. in three areas: rural, suburban, and urban areas. And the cost of housing at these three areas and at 2 years, for example, in 2005 and 2015, is a bar graph. It just talks about the average cost of housing in rural, urban, and suburban areas, and the second comparison, the average cost of housing in 2005 and 2015. The bar graph below shows the average housing cost in three different regions for 2 different years. It says, summarize the information by selecting and reporting in the main feature and make comparisons where relevant. Skill 4. Making an outline. What's an outline? Outline is a plan for what you will write. Start with the topic and determine and the comparison you made. Then add supporting details to describe the comparisons. Look at the graphic for picture, big changes or differences. Look for number that got up or down. The change and the difference are the features that support your comparisons. Outline. It's divided to 2 sections. One is introduction and the second is body of paragraph. The first, introduction of paragraph or title. Topic: housing costs in rural, urban, and suburban areas in 2 different years. Is the introduction, the title of topic, and the body of paragraph. The body of topics should be difference comparisons. For example, the average cost of housing in rural area, urban area, and suburban areas. And suburban areas. Supporting detail 1, average cost in rural areas. Supporting detail 2, average cost in suburban areas. Supporting detail 3, average cost in urban area. It's just the average cost of house in areas. And comparison 2, the average cost of housing in 2005 and 2015. Detail 1, change in housing cost in rural areas. Detail 2, change in housing cost in urban areas. And detail 3, change in housing costs in suburban areas. And the second part of this paragraph is the body of paragraph. At this section we should talk about the main title. For example, we should talk about the difference between cost of housing in rural, suburban, and urban areas. We should write, dear was a significant difference in housing costs in all three areas in both 2015, 2005 and 2015. The average housing cost in rural areas was lowest at 75,000 in 2005 and 125,000 in 2015. The average housing cost in rural areas was lowest at $75,000 in 2005 and $125,000 The average housing cost in suburban areas was slightly higher than rural areas in 2005 and a good deal higher in 2015. Urban costs were the highest and were around twice as high as costs in rural areas in both years. The average housing cost in suburban areas was slightly higher than rural areas in 2005 and a good deal higher in 2015. Urban costs were the highest and were around twice as high as costs in rural areas in both years. Housing costs in all three areas rose between 2005 and 2015. Average rural housing costs rose from $75,000 to $125,000. Average urban housing costs doubled, going from $150,000 to $300,000. Average suburban housing costs almost tripled, rising from $100,000 to $275,000. Overall, in conclusion, average housing costs in urban and suburban areas remained higher than in rural areas, but they rose significantly more in the time period shown on the graph. In writing Task 1, we should be careful on 3 main points. One is the introduction of paragraph, and second is the body of paragraphs, and the third is the conclusion of a title. Take a look. Overall, or in general, or generally, average housing costs in urban and suburban areas remained higher than in rural areas. It was the model of writing Task-1. In writing Task-1 model, we just talk about the title and the difference between the natural sense of title or things which is located in the graph or bar graph, line graph, chart. At this section, we could not talk about